So congratulations, firstly you made it through the rather extensive research methods unit, and now's your chance to really show what you understood through that and apply it to your own piece of research in the research project unit. So this video is literally an overview to give you a bit of a glance at what you'll have to do, and I'll try to help you specifically with different sections of this project as we go along. So in general, what you need to do, the specification is broken down into 4 bits. Clearly you've got to plan what you're going to do as your project. You've then got to conduct it and collect your data. You've then got to write up and produce the actual research article, and you've then got to review the whole process in terms of you as a researcher and how your project addressed what you intended it to, and also maybe try to project what you might do with it now and how you might develop or extend it. So we've kind of got 4 stages in terms of the whole process. So looking at each one individually, here's the spec for the plan part of it. So you will have to write a proposal form and identify and address many of these factors here. And to be honest, you've done pretty much all of this in the research methods unit. So you'll have to design your protocols, so how you're going to collect your data and how you're going to analyse your data, what type of data it's going to be, or whether it's a test, retest, or whether it's paired or independent grouped research, who you're going to use or who you sample. You have to consider obviously the ethical and legal considerations, and particularly look at the validity and reliability of your methodology and your data collection. So your planning very much involves you thinking through all of these elements. Here's a snippet of the proposal form. I will help you as again more specifically about how to complete this form, but you will have to complete a detailed form sort of laying out how you intend to carry out this project. And this is just simulating real life, because if you were doing a proper research activity, you'd have to go through the ethical board to have that accepted or perhaps rejected in worst case scenario. So you have to complete this form as if you were going through this proper process. Secondly then, the conducting the research project. Obviously you might need some resources, and you'd need to make sure that you were very au fait and comfortable with whatever resources you were using, or whatever equipment you might need in terms of doing that. Again, the ethical and legal issues associated with actually you controlling a piece of data collection or interacting with subjects, basics like the informed consent form and that how you treat them in terms of data protection and their health and safety, very much central in terms of this part of the actual doing the project. And then looking at your data, so knowing how to collect it, are you going to have sheets that are designed, are you going to put things into Excel, into spreadsheets, are you just observing and recording your data, sensible things about storage, and then finally how you're going to analyse your data, whether it's qualitative or quantitative, what tests you might use, or what process of coding, sort of thematic evaluation you might do on your data. So that's the actual doing and data collection and analysis part of it. Once you've done all that and you've got your data, in fact along the way you'll be writing up sections of your project, and we'll do this very much bit by bit, and it matters that it is produced in the right format, so that you'll have a title page, you'll have a contents page, you'll have an introduction, you'll have a methodology, you'll have results discussion, so on, so on, so on, as again you would in a full-on dissertation at university. So the writing style matters incredibly in this sort of process, but also the sections that you present your work in matters. So that's the producing the actual research project paper part of it. And then lastly, you'll be writing about and basically evaluating it. What went well, what didn't go well, did it actually address what it was supposed to do, did you get the right conclusions, and as we said, where would you recommend developing this project for future research. Here's all the criteria, just pause and have a look at it. Particularly let me draw your attention to the 2 distinction criteria, which will require you to do the sort of analysis or evaluative part of it. So this is all about doing it and collecting it and writing it up a bit more superficially. But your discussion and how you analyse your data and analyse your techniques is where you'll get one of the distinction criteria. And your ability to evaluate the whole process of your project and justify any modifications or future developments is the other one. So that's where your distinction comes from. So this is the context of the assignment scenario. So basically you're on placement at bases and you have to do either a qualitative or a quantitative piece of research, pretty much to show what you're about and that you can do this. Here really I've just done this to show you how you might start to think through your project in the planning phase in particular. So, you know, look at the different elements of your project and get some clarity in what you would need to think about. And you might add your own topics to this mind map. But that's just a way maybe of planning and thinking through the content of your project. Here's a very, very brief sort of summary of each element of the project format. So when you have to produce it, you'll be writing your work in these sections, in these titles. So title is obviously, you might start with a working title and then at the end you might finalise the title. Table of contents is straightforward. Abstract, I know we've looked at the starter research methods unit, and that's that paragraph that summarises exactly what your project's about, and people will decide if they want to look further into your project as a result of reading your abstract. This is a meaty, chunky part of it. So this is where you do all your secondary research, you see what other people have done, you see what they found, you see how they did their research, you actually evaluate their research. So was it appropriate, was it good protocol, was it a large enough sample size, and you discuss that there. Here's how you'll lay out what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, so your research design. The results, literally you are presenting the results, so you're, as we've done in your research methods, you're laying out what you found, not discussing it in results, you're just laying it out there in front of the reader. And then obviously discussion is where you get in amongst your results and try to make sense of it and give reason to it, and you link it in particular to the review of literature, so the stuff you found from other people's results, comparing your results with their results. Here's one of the distinction things. So these two here really are where you'll find your distinction work. As we said earlier, how did your research go? What was good and bad? Were there any validity or reliability issues? And how could you extend it or develop it or improve it in the future? And then appendices or appendix at the back, the extra bits of information that you need to go in. And the bane of every research project, the bibliography at the end, which must be alphabeticized and in the right format. At the end of your whole project, you'll be asked to translate it into this format. This is an academic poster, and a lot of universities will assess students on a presentation of an academic poster. So this is kind of an abbreviated version of the project. You can see it's a similar sort of format, sections, but very much summarised, and you'll need to do that, and I've provided a format here that you can use, but basically you're going to create the same thing in this presentation format. So this is the mark sheet. Basically, as I said, because the nature of this unit is that the pass and merit and distinction criteria aren't necessarily easy to separate. They kind of permeate the whole project. So, for example, P4, to produce a full research project report using the standardized structure, that basically means that you write it in the right sections. So you can't really be awarded that until you've written the whole thing. So I will obviously give you feedback on your project as you go through it, but you won't necessarily get individual criteria graded until it's finalised at the end.